I'm Carla, the Crazy Cross Stitch Lady. Welcome to my craft room. I am doing a tutorial today on variegated floss and how to stitch with that. I have done one previously a long time ago, but I had someone ask me if I would go slower with it. So that's what I'm going to do. And I also had some people ask me if I would please, when I was doing tutorials, use white Aida in a hoop in order for them to be able to see it better. So I'm going to do both of those because I think they are excellent ideas, and I'm not sure why I didn't do it before. So I'm going to try to go as slowly as I can. If I'm going too slowly for you, you can always, there are buttons on the YouTube videos where you can speed up the video, or of course you can always fast forward. So I am going to do timestamps for this one because I'm going to show you a couple of different things. So hopefully that will help break it up a little bit if you need to jump to different parts of the video. So I'm going to start out first of all. If you'll look here, this is DMC 4250, and it is a variegated floss, okay? So this is not called overdyed. This is not fancy floss. It is just simply a variegated floss, and you can see it is really variegated, and that's one of the reasons that I'm using it. It's really pretty, and of course it's got purple in it, so I mean that's why I like it. But DMC is color fast, so this is not an overdyed, but definitely variegated. Now, I put my variegated on floss drops, so I'm going to show you how to use them, and you know it's still going to be a little more awkward than the way I would normally take them off a floss drop, but I still like to store them this way rather than on bobbins anymore. So I'm going to show you how I manage that. So what I do, I'm going to take this off the floss drop. Okay, so let me just slide this off. It's a little awkward to do it on the camera there, but now I've taken it off. Okay, now I need to keep, I'm doing 2 strands, and I need to keep my strands together. So what I'm going to do, you see it's split up into all the different little 6-strand groupings. So what I typically do is I will just pull one, and then I will pull 2 strands off of this. I'll pull them one at a time, but make sure that they're both, like, if it's this end right here, I'm going to keep these 2 ends the same, so that the coloring is the same, okay? So I'm going to put this back on the drop because I've already pulled a couple of strands, and I will show you that here in just a minute. Okay, so what I've done, these are my 2 strands that I have pulled, and the colors run the same. Okay, so these were 2 that I pulled from the skein. So let me get this threaded, which I wish I had already threaded it, but no, I didn't. So let me thread it. And so it's hard to thread it on the camera, I found. So that's why I need to do it here. Okay, so we're threaded. Now, I have not done a loop start. Okay, so there's no loop. It's just a free end, which we are, you know, we just catch the tail at the back, and then as we're stitching, we just keep catching the tail, and that's how we secure the thread, okay? So I'm not going to worry about securing the thread. I'm actually going to put a knot in the end of it, which is a big no-no, but, or not a best practice, let's put it that way. But just for the sake of the tutorial, I'm going to do that, so because I'm not really stitching anything that I'm going to keep. Now, here is how it's best practice to stitch. I'm going to put this thread here. We're going to use it later. So here's my white Aida. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. I want to make sure that you can see this. Okay, so let me get it situated here. And this one, it's new, so it's really stiff. And I'm gonna come up and find a spot to come up in. Okay, so I'm gonna come up here. All right, let me pull that through. Now, this is typically how you would stitch with this. So we're just going to do regular X's, but when you are stitching with a variegated floss, you typically are not going to do one leg and just go over one leg, one leg and come over and then come back and cross. I'll show you what that looks like in a little bit, but here's how you would normally stitch. So we're going to go across. I'm going to do I'll do it like a 5 by 5, and I'll go 5 across and 5 down just so you can see the pattern. Okay, so I'm just doing regular stitches. Okay, so I'm just going to go in and hopefully don't make a knot here. Well, maybe. It's a little bit long, so you have to be kind of patient. That's the only thing, is that it makes sure you're working with a floss that's 30 inches long and not like 15, so it makes it a little awkward, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to come back up. Okay, and I am making, and I'm not going to worry about railroading or anything. It'll be okay. So that's for another lesson. Okay, so I'm just making a regular X. Just making the full X. Okay. And I'm just going to go 5 across. Stitching just like you would normally stitch. Okay, like you had a solid color of floss, except you're not going one leg across, you're doing full crosses. Okay. So just doing full crosses. And this right now, I'm having to go slowly anyway, because right now it's so long that it wants to tangle. And so I just have to be really careful. Okay, so just keep going. Not seeing any major changes in color yet. A little bit, it's getting darker. So. And a little bit darker. So I'm going to do 5. Okay. And one more. It's always harder to stitch on camera. I'm doing okay though. It's not too bad. And you can see this pretty well. I'm gonna try to keep this more centered. I keep wanting to go down to the bottom of the frame, which is not great. So, okay, so now, because I'm going to make a little square, I'm just going to go underneath this, and I'm going horizontally back across. Okay. Again, making normal X's. We're not doing anything fancy. We're going to let the floss do the work, okay? So I'm not doing anything fancy to the floss, no fancy stitches. I'm just making the X's, and the floss is going to change on its own. Now, right now, we're not seeing a whole lot, but sometimes with the DMC, even though it's very variegated, you're going to have long stretches of just the one color before it starts to change. But we will see it change. So we're going to keep going. And again, I have to go slowly because it's wanting to snag, and that's because the length is it's too long. That's the only thing with variegated. Now, if you really got irritated, you can cut this down. Just split it in half and cut it down to 15 if you want. That's all you have to do. But I didn't do a loop start. And right now it looks pretty solid. But we're just going to keep going. Because you can see how much longer you're going to have that purple, and then you'll see that it changes. So just coming back the way we came, full X's, not doing one leg across and then coming back. We're doing full X's all the way across. Like I said, if this is going too slowly for you, obviously you can fast forward a little bit. Hopefully this is not going too fast for you. You can always rewind if you need to see something again, pause it, do whatever you need to help you figure out what's going on here. Now, say again, I'm letting the floss do the work. All I'm doing is regular stitching in my good old stick and stab way. Okay, now look at this. Okay, so I'm going to come in a little bit more. I'll keep it that close to this X right here. See, this was kind of light, starting to get darker, and now we're starting to see a change here. So let me continue stitching, maybe. Okay, now I'm going down to the third row. I'm going to go back across. Again, full X's. Starting to change. Wow. Look at that. Okay. And I'm going to keep going. And just keep on. We're going to do a 5 by 5 so you can see it pretty well. Okay. All right. Now we had a dark purple row. Now we've got our lighter purple. And just, well, knocking over my paint. I'm glad that's sealed. Oops, look at that. I'm just jumping all over the place. Go back. Get the right spot there. I want to stitch enough where you are really seeing the change, which of course we're now seeing the change. A lot of change here. I always find it soothing to listen to the floss running through the fabric. And especially with this Ada, it's new, and so it's stiff. And I was able to get it pretty tight in the hoop. It's still harder to do this on camera, but we're making it. Okay. And you can see from the floss it's going to get lighter. It's changing, going to change again. It's getting lighter. And this is the really cool thing about variegated floss, is that you just let it do the work. You're just doing regular stitching. That's all you're doing. And it does all the changing. Whoever colored this had to do all the work. See how it's getting lighter? It's getting lighter, really light. Now, everything else, I don't think I'll have to do a whole 5x5 block. In fact, I can probably stop here. So I'll just lie to you and say I did 4x4 because this is going to be light for a little while. And then it'll start getting darker again after this. Okay, so that's a 5x4 block. But you can already see, look how many changes there are. Okay, so that's going horizontally. A lot of people, if they want to do variegated, they want some, maybe not a drastic change like this, but some more subtle changes. And they want to do a rooftop where it's shingles or something like that, they'll do it horizontally. Now, if you want like the walls of a house or a tree, something like that, you may want to do it vertically. So let's see what this is going to look like vertically. So I'm going to jump down just a few, like right here, okay? So let's stitch vertically. I'm using the same piece of floss, but I'm going to go up and down. So let me go down. And there are a couple of ways you can do this, depending on what look you want. So I'm going to go down. So instead of going across, go down. I'm going to go down about 5. And again, I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just doing regular stitches and letting the floss do the work. And I've said that like 20 times now, right? Okay, so very lilac color, light purple, very light. Okay. All right. Still very light. And as you pull it back through, you can see how much more there's going to be. So, I mean, it's not like it's going to be a surprise or anything. And I'll show you another little trick in case you don't know it, which has nothing to do with variegated floss, but it might come in handy for you. Okay, so here's the 5th one, and we can see it's starting to change. Okay. Now, okay, so I have a choice here. I can either come over here and go back up to start making my block, or I can come from here and I can jump up to the top and then come down. They're going to have different looks, so I'm going to do both. Now, if I'm coming up, when I'm doing my X and then coming in here, then my floss is going to come back out at this hole and it's going to undo this X. So in order for me not to have to do that, for not to have to worry about that, I'm going to turn this, I'm going to do a 180 and, well, untangle it. I've turned it upside down. Now, this is a trick that I use a lot, and you can use this when you're stitching on your pieces. Your X's will still be going in the same direction, but it's going to be a lot easier for you to stitch. So I'm going to start in this hole here, and that way I can continue the pattern or continue the gradation of color from here down to here, and it's going to be like a snaky pattern. So let's do a couple of rows of this, maybe 3 rows. So let me do this one and we'll watch the color change on this. And I want to see if I can speed up a little bit. My floss is getting a little shorter, so it's a little more manageable. But hopefully this is, well, if I can get in there. this is slow enough to help you, let you see what's happening. Okay, so I'm just going to go up here. We see a big change there, going back to the light purple. See, it's light, it's great. It gradually gets darker, then it gradually gets lighter, then it gradually gets darker. And that's the pattern that you see with variegated floss. And even with overdyed, it's the same thing. Okay. So let me do this, get this one finished up. Okay. Okay, well, okay, now I've got it upside down. I want it right side up, and if I'm gonna go back this way, I'm gonna have the same issue that I had before with the thread wanting to come back out in the same hole that I just gone in. So I'm gonna turn it back around. Now we're right side up, and now you can see how it has the snaky pattern. Well, what if we don't want that? What if we want it to really look stripy going up and down? Well, then what you would do instead of going down and back up and back down and back up, now we're going to go from the top. We're just going to skip a couple here. Okay, so we're going to start here at the top again, and we're going to go down. Okay, now, all right, so starting down. Okay, so I'll do 5 on this one as well. Well, I had dinner. I don't know, my stomach's growling. It feels very quiet in here, but that just means we can hear the floss a little bit better running through the fabric. I like that sound. Okay. Yep. All right, almost got it. Now we've gone, because I'm still using that same piece of floss, and twist it here a little bit. We're going back to the dark. Okay, now with this one, remember I started and went down and then came over and came back up. With this one, I want to do it differently. I came down, but now instead of coming over, I'm going to jump back to the top and come down again. So let's see what that looks like. So here I am. I've jumped back to the top, and now I'm going to go down. And it's it's a short block, so it's going to be interesting to see what that change is going to look like. So it's going to start getting lighter. And we'll see what kind of look it gives it. Okay. I'm doing better than I used to. When I first started making these tutorials and trying to keep it in front of the camera and trying to stitch, I just didn't have everything down pat yet. And so it was a bit of a struggle. I did okay, but, you know, and it's still, mine doesn't look like some of the other tutorials or videos that you see where it looks like the camera's like way above the person's head and it's a nice clean shot. But I want this to be close so that you can really see the stitches and, you know, without any trouble, and see what's going on here. All right, let me untwist. Okay, it's going to start getting lighter. So not a lot of change with these two because we had the dark going on, but I'm going to go up to the third row because we're starting to see a change here. Okay, so we're starting to see a change here at the bottom, so I'm going to go jump back up to this third row and let's see what it looks like. And untwist. It's kind of twisty on me. Okay, so here we're going to see a bigger change. Okay. Going light again. Yep. I'm telling you, we're not this awkward when we're just stitching normally, we promise. I feel very awkward doing this under the camera like this. Just it's a kind of an awkward position because you're trying to keep it under the camera where people can actually see, but yeah, it's just a little awkward. But I'll stop at the end of this row because we'll be able to kind of see what's going on here. Okay, last one. Okay, now, all right, so see, the look is very different. This look is almost, I don't know, it looks kind of snaky like, right? This over here to me this looks more like it would be on the side of a house. So that tells me that if I wanted to like do the side of a barn or a house or something, I'd probably do it this way, up to down, then jump back up and go down, jump back up and go down. And so your whole pattern is going to be the up to down, up to down, up to down, you know, all the way across. And that's what that looks like. Okay. Now I'm going to show you if you did one leg going across and then coming back across to do the full X, which a lot of people stitch that way. Sorry, I need to get a drink. And I don't stitch that way. I do stitch full X's anyway, so this makes no difference to me. But let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to come down here to this part. And now I'm actually going to do one leg going across, and then I'm going to come back. So I'm doing half of the leg going across like a lot of people do. Okay. Now, this is not loop start, okay? This is still, both strands are the same color, so they're changing at the same pace. So I'm going to keep going this way. Oop, untangle a little bit, untwist. Let me go one or two more, just to get some change in there. And go again. Let's see how far I need to go. Okay, now I'm going to start coming back. Okay, so I've done my one leg going across. Now I'm going to start coming back. And I'm going to cross them. I am not doing anything special. I am just coming back and doing the second leg for each X. The thread is the one that's doing all the changing, okay? That's interesting. Well, okay, and one more. Okay, there you go. What do you think? It's a little interesting, isn't it? I don't care for that, even though I love purple, but it's a little weird. But you know what? If you're doing some kind of like pattern where you're just using this variegated floss through the whole thing, and you're feeling kind of you know, where you're just wanting to be adventurous and you happen to like this look, that's apparently how you get it. So you do the 1X going, or the one leg going across, and then come back and cross the second leg. That's how I got that look. Okay, so let's go back and see what we did here. So up here, this was horizontal, going across and coming back. Going across and coming back. This one was going down and coming back up. This one was going down, then come up, go down, come up, go down. You could do the same thing with the horizontal, where you could, if you wanted to, you could go across and then come back over to the left and go across again. You would get this similar look. Okay, it's the same kind of look. Well, let's turn it sideways and see. So it might look something like that, okay? And then this was where we went across with one leg of the cross stitch and then came back and did the second leg. All right, now let me cut this off, and I'm going to do a loop start, and we're going to see what that looks like. So let me get my trusty little scissors here and cut this off and get that threaded. And, well, if I don't get a knot in it, that would be good. So I don't like the dead space like this in videos, but I'm gonna have to cut that off. I got a little knot in it. Okay, so I'm gonna do here's my thread. That's gonna be kind of hard to see, but it is from this variegated bunch. But I'm just going to loop it, and I'm using one thread and doing the loop start. And yes, it is the variegated, which means that with the two strands, the colors won't match up. And that's what we're trying to do here, because we want to see what it looks like. So let me get this threaded, and then we can see what it's going to look like. So you can probably tell here, see, it's not matching up because I did the loop start. So we'll see what it looks like. All right, so here we go again. So I'm going to start probably, I'll start right here. And let me catch my loop here. So again, I'm doing a regular cross stitch, okay? Let me catch my loop back here. Oop. And my needle came out. Now it's going to give me problems. My video might be going too long. So let me get that pulled back in. Okay. This one we won't have to stitch with it too long because you're going to see pretty quickly. Okay. So I'm just going to do regular X's going across. Okay. So I'll do, that one doesn't look too bad actually. But let me keep doing that. Okay. All right. And right now it's going to actually cooperate with me. All right. Because all the light got together. And you might get lucky with this. It looks like some of it did match up, sort of, kind of. So I may have just proven myself wrong. Here we get some mismatched. Okay, there's some mismatch right there. See how that's mismatched? You can see pretty well. Okay. And now it's going to do that. And then I'll come back just like I did on the others. Again, this is with a loop start. Take one thread, and we did a loop start, which means that the variegated colors in the two strands do not match. Or you might get lucky and have a small portion of it match. Now I'm coming back, just like I did before, but we're going to have a different result for sure. And then all I'm doing are the X's. What you're seeing happening is the floss just doing what it's going to do. I had no idea how this was going to turn out when I started. So I just knew it would probably be interesting. Okay. This is a long tutorial, but I think hopefully it will be worth it. And I've got the timestamps in there for you anyway, if you need to jump around. Okay. And there's that. And let's do one more, because I think that's going to be enough. Okay. And there we go. Okay, so this is going across and coming back with, we started with one variegated strand and looped it, did a loop start, which means that we folded it to make the ends meet and did a loop start, which meant that the variegated color gradation of the two, when it became two strands, it did not match. And this is what we got. Now, that's interesting. I don't know, it's kind of cool. If you wanted to do something that was very different and you're doing a pattern where this is the only color that you're just using this variegated color, then hey, if you like it, there you go. But now you can see how different this is from this look. I did the same thing. I just did a loop start instead of matching two strands together where the colors, the gradation goes together. So yeah, it's very odd. So the next portion of the video, I am going to use an actual overdyed floss. A lot of people call it fancy floss. It does not have the same kind of variegation that this does, but I'm going to show you what that looks like stitched up different ways. Okay, so here we go with the next part. And what I'm going to do with this part is the last one we actually used a DMC variegated floss. This is color fast. Okay. Now this is, I'm going to use some classic Colorworks. This is Bean Sprout. This is actually from one of the pieces that I finished. I think it was my birthday piece that I finished. That was month to month October by Stitching with the Housewives. So they use a lot of overdyed floss. So you can see there's some variegation, but I mean, not a ton, but there is some. It's more subtle. But I'm going to do the same thing that I did with my DMC. I'm actually going to remove it from this tag, which is acting as a floss drop. And now that I've got it out, what I'm going to do, just unfold it here, and I'm going to remove one of these 6 strands. I think I removed more than one. Let me see. It's getting a little froggy with me. Yeah, okay, so here's one. This is one 6 strand out of all of these. So if you look at them, you can see, let's see if I can get that focused in. You have individual pieces of 6 strand floss. So I just pulled one out, and I'm just going to set this other to the side. And then I'm going to pull 2 of these, and I'm just going to make sure that if I'm going to start on this end, I'm going to stay on this end. So I'm just going to pull 2, and I'm going to pull them individually. So I'm off camera for just a minute so I can get these pulled. I can just see it a little bit better. So I'll get these pulled out. And again, I'm going to have a long piece of floss, but if that makes you really uncomfortable, you can always cut it in half, and then you'll have your 15 inches of floss, which is what I'm typically used to working with. Okay, so let me get this pulled together and then get it threaded. So I'm gonna grab my needle here, get this threaded. And I'm in the middle trying to get dinner finished, which is, you know, part of the life of someone who's not a professional YouTuber. So I may have to stop the video and start it up again, which is okay. I'll just splice it all together. That's what my editing program is for. So you can see it's all matched up. Okay. So I'm not going to do a loop start. I am going to, with this one, let's see, let's start here. And actually, I'm going to knot the thread. Normally, I would let the threads catch the tail as I'm stitching, but just for the sake of time, I'm just going to knot it. And let me pick a spot like right here. This looks like a good spot to me. Now, I am going to see how long that is, so I'm going to pull my floss tail down just a little bit so there's not quite so much there. So I'm just going to go, I'm going to start out, I'm going to go straight across and come back like I did with this one. But I want you to see this variegation or how subtle it is. So I'm going to do full crosses going across. And I'm not doing one leg at a time. I'm doing a full cross as I'm going. And I'm not doing anything special again with the floss. I'm just making regular X's, and I'm letting the color of the floss just do its work. And I'm going a little bit more slowly because my floss is so long, I don't want it to get tangled. But hopefully you'll be able to see what it's doing. So as I go, it should start changing color, but it's going to be more subtle. This is an overdyed. Classic Colorworks are all overdyed flosses. They are not color fast. People typically don't wash their projects when they use these pieces of floss. Now some do, you know, they'll do color catchers, and there are plenty of videos out there to demonstrate what color catching is. I'm not the person you want to watch for that because I've not done it. And so I'm not going to do a tutorial on something I've never done before. That just would not be a good idea. But there are plenty of videos out there that will definitely help you should you decide to do that. So I'm going to go 5 across, just like I did with the variegated. And even though this technically is a variegated floss, or variegated floss rather, I don't call it that because I typically reserve that nomenclature for DMC because it is color fast, and usually their variegation is more of an in-your-face kind of variegation, as you can see from all of this here. So this one I am using, of course, like I said, the overdyed, and the variegation is there, but it's just a lot more subtle. But over the time of stitching the project, as you know, you stitch more of it, you're going to see the variegation. Okay, now I'm going to go down to the next row, and I'm going to just simply come back. And we'll see if we start to see any changes. And if we do, of course, it'll be pretty subtle. And it may take a little bit more for us to see the change in this. So we're going to give it a try. If I'm stitching with overdyed, this is one of the brands that I really do like. I like Classic Colorworks. I like Color and Cotton. They have a really nice floss. And there are some that I don't care to stitch on. Gentle Arts is one of those. A lot of people like stitching with Gentle Arts, and that's awesome. It's not for me. And that is all 100% personal preference. There's no science behind it. It's not saying that their floss is any better or worse than anyone else's. It's not the makeup of the floss. It's simply, I feel like it's not as, in my opinion, it doesn't go as smoothly as Classic Colorworks. This is Classic Colorworks. It flows through the fabric, I think, just as well as DMC does. And again, that's my opinion. There may be someone else out there, they love Gentle Arts and they can't stand Classic Colorworks. And it's all good. It's all okay. So, you know, one of the things we have to do is just be okay with everybody liking different things. That's why you got so many different companies out there. Now, there's some variegation in here now, but again, it's very subtle. So let me get to the end of this row, and then I'm gonna do a really nice close-up here so that you can see it really well because it is subtle. Okay, let me finish that one. Okay, now let me bring it up here close. You can't see it as well on the camera, at least it looks like. This over here, let me see if I can use my needle here. Okay, so this over here is darker, and then it gets a little bit lighter, like these four right here are lighter. You might be able to see that. And then it starts to get darker again here. But notice it's really subtle, but it's there. And if you're stitching quite a bit over one project, you're going to, if you look at the whole project as a whole, you're going to see the variegation. It's just not going to be like the in-your-face kind of variegation. So we apply the same principles, though, as we do with the variegated floss. If you want to do something like a roof with shingles, then you're going to want to go horizontally. If you're doing a barn, like the side of a barn or a house or something, then you'll want to go up and down. I feel like the look, you know, when you do the snake pattern, it's a little different. I think it's a little more, looks more like the side of a building if you start at the top and go down, start at the top and go down, and so on. So I'm going to do the same thing with this floss. So I'm going to skip down a couple, and this one I'm going to go vertically. So that means we're going to go up and down. And again, I've got to go slowly right now because my floss is long. Now, I have set the timer on my phone, so when that timer goes off, the video will probably stop. And then wherever I am, I'll just pick up and I'll just splice these together. And that way, you know, I have to wait until after dinner to start again, but you won't. The magic of video editing. My editing program is not fancy. You can do a lot more than I do with it, but I don't, you know, I'm not into doing a whole lot of editing. And I know there are some floss tubers out there, or YouTubers out there, even floss tubers, who really get into this stuff. And some people buy the very fancy cameras and they just really get into making it look more like a cinematic work. And I'm not into that, but you know, if I were retired, had more time on my hands, I would probably do something like that. But I just can't afford to do that right now. I simply don't have the time. Even in the summer, I don't want to take the time to do that because I have other things that I'm trying to get done. So I'll stick with my simpler videos because I do have time to, you know, do stuff like this, set aside time, and then do some simple editing and go on and get this uploaded because it takes me a while. My Wi-Fi can be a little slow when it comes to the uploading. So a lot of times, even with me doing it simply, it could take a day to a day and a half to go through the whole process of uploading a video. It takes some work. Okay, so I'm down to 5 here, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did with this one. I'm going to turn it. Okay, and now I'm going to start here beside what was the bottom one and then go back down, and we'll see if we see any change. Probably won't be as drastic as what we saw with the other one because overdyed is not typically meant to be an in-your-face kind of variegation. It's supposed to be more of a subtle, oh, look, it looks a little different, you know. It's supposed to be kind of like that. And that's why a lot of people like to use it because it adds just a little bit of, I don't want to say pizzazz, but it gives you a little bit of variety. It makes everything look a little bit different. Just gives a little bit of oomph, I guess, if you want to call it that. So we're doing a snake pattern. We're going down and up like we did with this other one over here. This is what we're doing. I hope I'm going slowly enough for everyone, and it looks like you can definitely see this a lot better than my last one, so hopefully that will help. But again, you can always pause the video, rewind it, watch it again as much as you need to in order to see exactly what's happening with this floss and what I'm doing. And I'm just making the regular X's. Now I'm not doing, you know, one leg going across, at least right now. I'm doing full X's like I normally would with a piece, except I wouldn't be using floss that's this long. Now, if I'm using variegated, I do, and I typically don't cut mine in half. However, I may start doing that because it is very awkward to use such a long piece. It's not a bad idea just to take it and cut it in half. You're still going to get the same effect. Okay, now let me turn it right side up. Okay, so here's this. I'm not seeing as much variegation. This looks mainly the same, except I am noticing that it is a little bit lighter right here These are a little bit darker. Now, if I go up and down, I'm going to do that a couple of times. So we're going to start right here, okay? And go through. Okay. Now I'm going to go down. Do you like it quiet sometimes where you can just hear the floss going through the fabric? Sometimes I like to sit quietly and just listen to it. It's almost like I go into a meditative kind of state. You ever do that? Just go into like a meditative state. One thing I love about cross stitch is that it's a hands-on thing. It's not not really technology driven as in computer driven. You don't have to go online to do it. You're doing it by hand. Anything, and one of the things I teach my students, because we talk about technology, technically, any tool that you use that gets a job done for you, whether that's a computer, a pencil even, because it can be simple, this needle, it's all technology. So that's like the technical term of it. Usually when you say technology, people do think of computers. So I have to explain to my students that technology it's the tools that we use. Okay, so now I'm at the 5th one. So now, instead of going to this next one beside it, I'm going to come back up. So I'm going to come back up to the top, see where my needle is, and now I'm going to go down again. So this is a different stitching pattern than the other one. And now granted, I'm not doing big blocks right here. I'm just doing a couple of rows. So it's going to be a little bit harder to see. But if you notice, I only did a few rows with the variegated, and you could tell a big difference just in those couple of rows. This one, it's much harder. There is variegation. I really don't know how much is coming through on the camera. I guess I'll be able to tell when I play it back and watch it. But, you know, there's not a lot of change. It's very subtle. And if you're sitting there going, I don't see any change at all, then you can tell how subtle it is. There are very subtle gradations of light to dark, and then back to light and back to dark. And that's what these flosses do. If they're variegated, they go from light colors to dark colors and then back to light. And they just keep doing that. And so as you stitch, it's going to come through, of course. Okay, this one, I can see the variations of light and dark, but again, it's hard to see it. You have to really look at it. So I'm going to finish this and see if we can see anything. Like I said, it's right now it looks like through the camera you can't really see any difference, and you may not be able to, but just trust me, there is a slight difference, but it's very subtle. This particular floss is very subtle anyway. When you just look at it, you can tell. There are some, okay, overdyed. Okay, it cut me off mid-sentence. So I'm going to finish this, and then I'm going to have to go get my dinner, and then I will be back. But there are some overdyeds that are more in your face, variegated. And so you will just simply see it more. It won't be as subtle. Okay, so there's that one. Starting up, going down, then coming back up and going down. I'm really not seeing a whole lot. If you kept stitching, you would see it. I'm seeing a little more in this other one. but you know, that's stitching with an overdyed, and you're going to get kind of the same effect if you do take one thread and you do a loop start. It's not going to be as in your face. Ooh, that's weird. So I will do that next. So I'm going to stop this so I can feed us some dinner. And you know, I'm going to edit this some, but you are seeing this just a day in the life. So I'm going to stop this, and then I will come back and finish up this tutorial, and I'll put all these together. All right, we'll see you in a bit. I am back again with the magic of editing that seemed like a split second, didn't it? Okay, so I have now taken one strand of the Overdyed Floss from Classic Colorworks. The color is Bean Sprout. And I have already done my loop start, and I'm starting here. So I've done one leg. Now, the colors don't match up because I did the loop start. And so you might be able to see there is a darker and a lighter thread there. So we're going to see what it looks like. There are some people who actually do it this way all the time because they like the look of it. So we're going to do a couple of rows. We're going to just go across and come back. And we're going to do it, well, if I can maybe do it without losing my needle, that would be good. Let me pull I got to rethread, and then I will pull my tail down a little bit more. I didn't have it down enough. You got to leave enough tail where it doesn't come out of the needle. That would be good. Okay, let's try that again. All right, so I'm going to go 5 over and 5 back, and we'll see what it looks like. And again, you may not be able to tell a whole lot because it's still subtle, even though the colors of each strand are not matching up because I did the loop start. Because it's subtle, you might actually be able to get away with this more, and it gives a different look. And what Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop found out is that when she does it this way, it still gives a little bit of variegation, but it's not much at all. It's not even as much as if you have two strands that are the same color together. It's still you know, because that even by itself, when you do it that way, is so subtle. If you do a loop start, it's going to be even more subtle than that, even though your two threads are not matching. Okay, so we're at 5. And then I will come down. Okay, so I'm going to come down to this one right here. And we're going to come back over. Okay, so remember, I'm doing whole X's. I'm not doing one leg at a time. But I can do one leg at a time just so we can see if we actually do get a different look. But again, this is going to be pretty subtle. So let me put this all the way through. When I finish with this video, I'm going to take a little bit of time before I go to bed and stitch on one of my projects. I'm not sure which one out of my rotation of 5 that I'm doing, but I'm not sure which one I want to stitch on. Let's see. I like to stitch a little bit before I go to bed. It helps me unwind and relax. All right. I am seeing a little bit here Let's see, let me get this last one in. Doesn't seem to be showing up in the camera as much, but we'll see. Okay, all right. All right, let's take a look. Now, this is what I just stitched. It doesn't show as much variegation, and I'm looking at it in person, like not through the camera, but just looking at it. It is much, much more subtle. There's still a little bit, but it doesn't look wonky. Like this right here looks really wonky, right? Now, I mean, you might like that look. You might think, oh, that's pretty cool looking. Hey, if you do, you do you. You go for it. But what I did here is the same as what I just did here. And there's really not that much difference. So, you know, if Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop is doing it this way, and this seems to be how she does it all the time. I don't know if she's changed since I saw some of those videos, but there's still a little variegation, but it's more subtle, much more subtle. And it's more subtle than like this one right here, which shows a little more variegation. Let me try to do one leg at a time. And this is with doing a loop start and one leg at a time. So this ought to be an interesting combination. We didn't try that with the DMC variegated. So that might be something you want to try just out of curiosity to see what it looks like. So I'm just going to do one leg, and going across, I'm going to do 5. Okay, this is how most stitchers stitch, and this is also, if you look in diagrams, they show you this is how you do it. But this is not the only way to do it. They act like that's the one correct way to stitch, and it's not. It's simply one way. You can do full X each time. That's what I do all the time. The only difference is your back looks different. And how often do people look at the backs? I mean, some people get obsessed with the back. I'm not one of them. I do like my backs neat, simply because I don't like a lot of bulky material in the back. Okay, now I'm going to cross back over. But that's the only reason I care about my back. I'm not, you know, worried about, ooh, somebody's going to see my back. So, you know, I don't do that. They used to be a little more obsessive about that than they are now. Now we're kind of like, yeah, you know, whatever. Okay, so I am coming back and making the second leg of my X on these. Okay. And then I'll do 2 rows of this, and then we will compare. Okay. All right, now let me come down. I'm coming down to the next row. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to do one leg, going across. Oop. Get in the right spot there, girl. Okay, there's the one leg going across. Now I'm going to come back. last one. Okay. All right, let's take a look. Well, I'm seeing not really that much variegation. Maybe a little bit, but it actually doesn't look that bad. It looks pretty good. Now, with the subtle variegated floss, well, overdyed floss like this. So let me bring the whole string back. So let me put it in up here. Actually, let's look at this. Okay, so it starts here, and then we can see where there are spots where it gets light, and then you can see it get dark again, and you know, so see, it's so subtle. So with a floss like this, you can see it get light again at points, but you know, it's not in your face kind of variegated floss. It's just a very subtle color. So it looks like you can get away with pretty much stitching it however you want. You still are going to get more variegation if you take two separate strands and you match them up where the colors are matched as you go through, like I did with this first one. That is still going to get you the most variegation. So if you are really wanting a lot of variegation, you want to see those colors change just a little bit more, then I would definitely stitch it that way. I always do stitch it that way. I don't stitch it any differently. In fact, some people say, well, if you don't want the variegation, then why are you stitching with an overdyed? Well, I kind of see their point, but in one way, and in another way, I also understand when people want to try to stitch in different ways, because sometimes you want something, just a little something there where people are going, that's a little different. And they pick up on it, but it's not like, you know, neon lights and all of that stuff. So I understand that. But if it's even with, this is not an overdyed, but let's say there are some overdyeds that are still more subtle than this, but you can really see the color changing, then you may want to, you know, take that into consideration when you're thinking about how you're going to stitch this. So you've got some options, but I hope that this reboot video, it's quite a long video, but I'm hoping that this reboot helped you to see the stitches a little bit better, helped you understand a little bit better how you can stitch with a variegated floss and really get some cool outcomes from it. So it all depends on what kind of look you're going for. So again, it's all about the you do you, but I wanted to do this tutorial to show you the different ways that you can do this. And yes, if you've never stitched with variegated or overdyed floss, you most absolutely can. And so just give it a try, and try it on a small project where you're just using that one variegated floss or that one overdyed floss. See what you think about it. See if you like it. Try different brands. See what you think about those. The only way you're going to know for sure whether or not you like it is if you have tried it yourself. I can give you advice. I can tell you my opinion about things, but that's just my opinion. You're going to have to make the decision for yourself and what you like and what you don't like. So I really hope that, even though I know this video went longer, a lot longer than I wanted it to, I hope that what I've shown you here will help you to make decisions about how and if you want to use variegated or overdyed floss. All right, be creative, be blessed, and I will see you later.